Sergeant Morrison spent the next hour taking detailed statements from Camilla, Tyson, and several witnesses. He collected the video footage from multiple phones, ensuring that everything was properly documented. Throughout the process, Tyson stayed by Camilla's side, offering support and making sure she was treated with the respect she deserved as they waited for the paperwork to be completed. Camilla and Tyson sat at a corner table, away from the remaining onlookers. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, and Camilla felt exhausted. "I've never felt so powerless," she admitted quietly. "I've built a billion-dollar company. I employ over 500 people. I've advised government agencies on cybersecurity. But in that moment when he grabbed my arm, none of that mattered. I was just another black person he could push around." Tyson nodded, understanding her pain completely. "I know exactly what you mean. People see the fame and the money and they think that protects you from racism. But it doesn't. It just changes the shape it takes. I can't count how many times I've been followed in stores, questioned about my car, or treated like a threat just for existing. How do you deal with it?" Camilla asked. "How do you keep going when you know that no matter what you achieve, some people will always see you as less than?" Tyson was quiet for a moment, considering his answer carefully. "I used to deal with it by being angry. I'd lash out, get into fights, make things worse. But I learned something over the years. You can't let their ignorance define you. You can't let their hate make you hateful. What happened here today was wrong, but look at what else happened. People stood up. They recorded. They spoke out." That sergeant seemed genuinely concerned about making it right. "Things are changing, slowly, but they're changing." "But Officer Mitchell is still out there," Camilla said. "After today, he'll probably just be more careful about who's watching. He'll still have those same prejudices." "Maybe," Tyson agreed. "But at least now there's a record. There's accountability. And more importantly, you're still standing. You didn't let him break you. That matters more than you know." Camilla smiled for the first time since the ordeal began. "Thank you for being here. I keep thinking about what might have happened if you hadn't walked through that door. Would I be in a police station right now, charged with resisting arrest? Would my reputation be destroyed before I could even tell my side of the story?" "Don't think about what might have been," Tyson said firmly. "Focus on what is. You're here, you're safe, and you have the truth on your side. That's powerful." Sergeant Morrison returned with a clipboard full of papers. "Miss Harrison, I've documented everything. Officer Mitchell and Officer Cole are currently suspended pending a full internal investigation. The district attorney's office will also review the case to determine if any criminal charges should be filed against Officer Mitchell for false arrest and civil rights violations." Camilla took the papers and scanned through them. "What happens to the videos everyone recorded?" "They're evidence now," Morrison explained. "We've collected copies from the witnesses who were willing to provide them. I should warn you, though, this is probably going to be a media story. People have already started posting about it on social media. By tonight, this could be national news." Camilla's eyes widened. She hadn't even considered that aspect of it. Her company's public relations team was going to have a field day. Managing the situation, Tyson saw her concern and spoke up. "Sergeant, is there any way to keep Miss Harrison's identity private, at least for now?" Morrison shook his head. "I wish I could promise that, but once something goes viral on social media, there's no controlling it. My advice would be to get ahead of the story. Talk to your lawyers, prepare a statement, control your own narrative before someone else does it for you." Camilla nodded, her business mind already shifting into crisis management mode. This wasn't just a personal incident anymore. It was going to affect her company, her employees, and potentially her shareholders. She needed to handle this correctly. "Thank you, Sergeant Morrison," she said, standing up and extending her hand. "I appreciate how you handled this situation once you arrived. It gives me some hope that not everyone in the department shares Officer Mitchell's views." Morrison shook her hand firmly. "I've dedicated my life to serving this community with integrity. Officers like Mitchell make that job harder for all of us. I promise you, this will be taken seriously." As Morrison left, Tyson turned to Camilla. You need a ride somewhere? I'm guessing you're not feeling too great about sitting in that coffee shop much longer. Camilla laughed, a real genuine laugh that surprised her. No, I think I'm done with this place for a while. But I have my car, remember? The one that started this whole mess. Right, Tyson grinned. The suspicious black Mercedes that clearly must be stolen because, logic. They walked outside together and Camilla retrieved her keys from her purse. The Mercedes sat exactly where she had left it, gleaming in the afternoon sun. She ran her hand along the hood, thinking about how something so simple as owning a nice car could cause such chaos. Mike, she said, turning to face him, I want to do something about this. Not just for me, but for everyone who goes through this and doesn't have someone to help them. I have resources. I have a platform now, apparently, once this goes viral. I want to use it. Tyson's eyes lit up. What did you have in mind? A foundation, Camilla said, the idea forming as she spoke. Something that provides legal support for people who experience discrimination and false arrest. Cameras for those who can't afford them. Training programs for police departments on implicit bias. I don't know all the details yet, but I know I can't let what happened to me today be meaningless. That's powerful, Tyson said, clearly impressed. And if you need any help, any support at all, you know where to find me. I've got some experience with media attention, and I've got connections that could help get something like that off the ground. Camilla pulled out her business card and handed it to him. I'm going to hold you to that. Once I get through the immediate fallout of this situation, I'm going to call you. We're going to make something good come out of this nightmare. Tyson pocketed the card and pulled out his phone. Let's exchange numbers now. I have a feeling the media is going to be hounding both of us pretty soon. Might be good to stay coordinated on what we're saying. They exchanged contact information, and Camilla felt a strange sense of gratitude for the entire situation. Not for what Officer Mitchell had done, but for the connection she had made with someone who understood her struggle and was willing to stand beside her. You know what I just realized? Camilla said with a wry smile. I never did get to finish my coffee. Tyson laughed. Yeah, well, after all that, you probably need something stronger anyway. Tell you what, there's a great restaurant a few blocks from here. Why don't we grab some lunch? You can tell me more about your company and we can start planning this foundation of yours. Camilla checked her phone and saw dozens of missed calls and messages. Her assistant, her board members, her PR team, everyone was trying to reach her. The news had already started spreading online. But instead of panic, she felt a strange calm. You know what? Lunch sounds perfect. The chaos can wait another hour. I think I've earned a break. They got into their respective cars, and Camilla followed Tyson to a small Italian restaurant tucked away from the main streets. Inside, the owner recognized Tyson immediately and gave them a private booth in the back where they could talk without being disturbed, over plates of pasta and glasses of wine. Camilla told Tyson about her journey. She had grown up in south-central Los Angeles, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. Camilla had been good with computers from a young age, finding solace in the logical world of code and programming. When the real world felt too chaotic and unfair, she had gotten a scholarship to MIT, where she had been one of only a handful of black women in her computer science program. The discrimination she faced there was often subtle. Professors who assumed she was less capable, study groups that excluded her, job opportunities that seemed to go to everyone but her, but she had persevered, graduating at the top of her class and going to work for a major tech company. After a few years of seeing her ideas credited to male colleagues and her expertise questioned at every turn, she decided to start her own company. Harrison Security Systems began in her apartment with just her and 2 friends. Now, 15 years later, it was worth over $2 billion. What Officer Mitchell did to me today, Camilla said, her voice growing passionate, it reminded me that no amount of success can shield you from prejudice. But it also reminded me that I have a responsibility to use my success to fight back. I didn't build my company just to make money. I built it to prove that people who look like me belong in these spaces. And now I need to build something that protects people like me from situations like today." Tyson listened intently, nodding along. He shared his own stories of discrimination, of being treated as dangerous or stupid despite his intelligence and success. He talked about his journey from troubled youth to world champion to convicted felon to redeemed public figure. His path had been different from Camilla's, but the underlying struggle was the same. "We've both had to fight for every bit of respect we've gotten, Tyson." Mitchell found himself in an impossible position. He was being challenged by Mike Tyson, one of the most recognizable people on the planet, and a growing crowd of witnesses was recording every moment. His initial confidence began to crack under the weight of the scrutiny. "She was acting suspicious," Mitchell said, but his voice lacked the authority it had earlier. "The car outside is expensive, and we had reason to believe—" "Reason to believe what?" Tyson interrupted, his voice rising. "That a black woman can't afford a nice car? That's what you're saying." Cole, the younger officer, was looking increasingly uncomfortable. He had already been having doubts about Mitchell's actions, and now, with Tyson confronting them and phones recording everywhere, he realized they had made a terrible mistake. "Mr. Tyson," Cole began, trying to de-escalate, "we were just doing a routine check." "Routine check?" Tyson's voice was filled with disbelief and anger. "You handcuffed her for sitting in a coffee shop? That's routine to you?" Camilla stood between the officers and Tyson, her wrists still bound in handcuffs, but she felt a surge of hope. Someone was finally standing up for her, someone whose voice couldn't be easily ignored or dismissed. "Mike Tyson," she said, catching his attention. "My name is Camilla Harrison. I own Harrison Security Systems. I was having coffee before a board meeting. That's my Mercedes outside. I showed them my registration and license, but Officer Mitchell here decided I must have stolen it." Tyson turned his fierce gaze back to Mitchell. The officer actually took a step backward, his hand instinctively moving toward his weapon. Tyson noticed the movement and raised his hand slightly, showing he meant no physical threat. "Don't even think about it," Tyson warned. "There's 20 people in here recording this. You've already messed up enough. You really want to add threatening me to the list?" Mitchell's hand moved away from his weapon, but his face was red with embarrassment and anger. He was used to being in control of situations, and now he was being made to look foolish in front of everyone. A woman in the back of the coffee shop shouted, "Take the handcuffs off her. She didn't do anything." Others began to join in, their voices creating a chorus of support for Camilla. The barista approached cautiously. "Officers, I've been working here for 3 years. Miss Harrison comes in every week. She's never caused any trouble. She's always polite and generous with tips. I don't understand why you're doing this to her." Mitchell looked around the coffee shop and realized he was losing control of the narrative. Every face was looking at him with accusation and disgust. Every phone was pointed in his direction, capturing his failure for the world to see. Tyson pulled out his own phone. "You know what? I'm calling my lawyer right now. He's going to love this case. False arrest, racial profiling, excessive force. Those handcuffs look pretty tight from here." The mention of excessive force made Cole glance at Camilla's wrists. They did look tight, and her hands were beginning to show signs of restricted circulation. He finally found his courage. "Mitchell," Cole said quietly, "we should take the cuffs off. We don't have probable cause for an arrest. You know that." Mitchell shot his partner a look of betrayal, but Cole stood firm. He was young, but he wasn't going to destroy his career by going along with something he knew was wrong. "The hell we don't," Mitchell muttered. But his voice had lost all its power. Tyson stepped closer, his massive frame towering over Mitchell. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take those handcuffs off this woman right now. You're going to apologize. And then you're going to walk out of here and think real hard about how you do your job. Because I promise you, if you don't, what happens next is going to follow you for the rest of your life." There was no threat of violence in Tyson's words, but there was absolute certainty. He had influence, connections, and resources that Mitchell couldn't even imagine. More importantly, he had the truth on his side. And that truth was being recorded from multiple angles. Mitchell's jaw worked silently for a moment. He was calculating his options and finding that none of them were good. If he continued, he would almost certainly face disciplinary action or worse. If he backed down, he would look weak. But looking weak was better than losing his job and possibly facing a lawsuit. He reached for his keys and unlocked the handcuffs. As they came off, Camilla rubbed her wrists, wincing at the red marks that had already formed. The relief of being freed from the metal restraints was physical and emotional. "Thank you," Camilla said to Tyson, her voice thick with emotion. She had spent the last 20 minutes trying to stay strong, but now that it was over, the reality of what had almost happened began to sink in. Tyson nodded to her, then turned back to the officers. "Now apologize." Mitchell stood silent, his pride refusing to let him speak the words that needed to be said. Cole stepped forward instead. "Ma'am, I apologize. This should never have happened. You did nothing wrong, and you were treated unfairly. I'm sorry." Camilla looked at the younger officer and saw genuine regret in his eyes. She nodded slowly, accepting his apology even though it didn't erase what she had just experienced. Mitchell remained silent, his jaw clenched tight. Tyson shook his head in disgust. "You're a coward," he said directly to Mitchell. "You can abuse your power, but you can't own up to your mistakes. I feel sorry for every person who has to deal with you." Before Mitchell could respond, the coffee shop door opened again. This time, a police sergeant entered, having been called by the 911 dispatcher after the barista's call. The sergeant took in the scene quickly, his experienced eyes moving from Tyson to Camilla to his two officers. "What's going on here?" the sergeant asked, directing his question to Mitchell and Cole. Cole spoke up before Mitchell could. "Sergeant Morrison, we made a mistake. We stopped this woman without proper cause and placed her under arrest. Mr. Tyson intervened and we've released her." Sergeant Morrison's face grew stern. He had been on the force for 25 years and had seen situations like this before. They never ended well for anyone involved. "Give me your incident report," Morrison said to Mitchell. Mitchell fumbled for his notepad, but he had barely written anything. The sergeant snatched it from his hands and read the sparse notes. His frown deepened. "You detained someone for having an expensive car?" Morrison asked incredulously. "We had reasonable suspicion," Mitchell began. "You had nothing," Morrison interrupted. "Get back to the station, both of you. We'll discuss this in my office." As the two officers began to leave, Mitchell shot one last angry look at Tyson and Camilla. As if they were somehow responsible for his problems rather than his own actions, Morrison approached Camilla, his expression apologetic. "Ma'am, I'm Sergeant Morrison. On behalf of the department, I sincerely apologize for what happened here today. This is not how we train our officers, and it's not acceptable behavior. I'd like to get your statement and information so we can file a formal complaint and begin an investigation." Camilla took a deep breath, composing herself. "Sergeant, I appreciate your apology, but this isn't just about me. How many other people has Officer Mitchell treated this way? How many didn't have someone like Mike Tyson walk through the door to help them?" Morrison nodded gravely. "You're right, and that's exactly why we need your statement. This needs to be documented and investigated properly. I can't promise you it will fix everything, but it's a start." Tyson placed a supportive hand on Camilla's shoulder. "I'll be your witness," he said. "I saw everything from when I walked in. I'll testify, give statements, whatever you need." Camilla felt tears threatening to fall, but she blinked them back. She was a successful businesswoman, a billionaire, someone who had climbed to the top of a male-dominated industry. But in that coffee shop, none of that had mattered. She had been reduced to nothing more than the color of her skin in Officer Mitchell's eyes. "Thank you, Mike," she said, turning to face the boxing legend. "You didn't have to stop. You didn't have to get involved. But you did, and you probably saved me from something much worse." Tyson shook his head. "I did what anyone should do when they see injustice. The difference is I had the platform to do it without being afraid. That's the real problem, isn't it? People shouldn't need a celebrity to protect them from the police. The coffee shop had mostly cleared out by now, but the few remaining customers approached Camilla and Tyson. An elderly white woman with tears in her eyes hugged Camilla. "I'm so sorry," the woman said. "I'm so sorry this happened to you. It was wrong, and I'm ashamed that I just sat there recording instead of speaking up sooner." Camilla hugged her back. "You recorded it. That's important. That's evidence. Don't feel bad about that." A young black man who had been sitting in the corner with his laptop came forward next. "Miss Harrison, I just want to say I admire your strength. The way you handled that, staying calm and asserting your rights even when they were trying to intimidate you, that took courage. You're an inspiration." More people came forward with similar messages of support. It was overwhelming and cathartic at the same time. Camilla realized that while she had been the one directly victimized, everyone in that coffee shop had witnessed something that disturbed them deeply. They had seen how quickly things could go wrong, how easily someone could be targeted and dehumanized. The morning sun cast long shadows across the quiet street in Beverly Hills as Camilla Harrison stepped out of her sleek black Mercedes. She adjusted her designer sunglasses and checked her phone one more time before heading into the coffee shop. At 42 years old, Camilla had built an empire from nothing. Her tech company had revolutionized online security systems, making her one of the wealthiest black women in America. But despite her success, she never forgot where she came from or the struggles that shaped her. The coffee shop was nearly empty at this early hour. Camilla ordered her usual espresso and sat near the window, reviewing contracts on her tablet. She had a board meeting in 2 hours and wanted everything perfect. The peaceful moment was exactly what she needed before another hectic day of running a billion-dollar company. Outside, Officer Derek Mitchell and his partner Officer Ryan Cole were patrolling the area in their squad car. Mitchell had been with the force for 12 years, and in that time, he had developed certain assumptions about people based on how they looked. His partner Cole was newer, only 3 years on the job, and often went along with whatever Mitchell said or did. Mitchell spotted the black Mercedes parked outside the coffee shop. Something about it caught his attention. Maybe it was the expensive car in this particular spot, or maybe it was his own biases coming to the surface. He slowed the patrol car and stared at the vehicle. "Run those plates?" Mitchell told his partner. Nodding toward the Mercedes. Cole hesitated for a moment, but then typed the license plate number into the computer system. The results came back clean. The car was registered to Camilla Harrison with no outstanding violations or warrants. "It's clean," Cole said, showing Mitchell the screen, but Mitchell wasn't satisfied. He had already made up his mind about something being wrong. "That car's worth at least $100,000. Let's go check it out." They parked the patrol car and walked toward the coffee shop. Through the window, they could see Camilla sitting peacefully, sipping her espresso and working on her tablet. She was dressed in an elegant business suit, her natural hair styled in neat locks that fell past her shoulders. Mitchell pushed open the door, and the bell chimed overhead. Camilla glanced up briefly, acknowledged the officers with a polite nod, and returned to her work. She had done nothing wrong and had no reason to feel nervous. But something in Mitchell's eyes made her uncomfortable. She had seen that look before throughout her life, the look that questioned whether she belonged in spaces like this. The two officers walked directly to her table. Mitchell stood over her with his arms crossed while Cole positioned himself slightly behind, his hand resting near his belt. "Ma'am, we need to see some identification," Mitchell said. His tone cold and demanding. Camilla looked up, confused. "Is there a problem, officer?" "Just show me your ID," Mitchell repeated. More forcefully this time. Camilla carefully set down her tablet and reached for her purse. She moved slowly, making sure her hands were always visible. Years of watching the news and hearing stories from friends had taught her to be cautious around police. No matter how innocent the situation seemed, she pulled out her driver's license and handed it to Mitchell. He studied it for a long moment, comparing the photo to her face multiple times as if he didn't believe it was really her. "This says Camilla Harrison," Mitchell said. "You're telling me you're the owner of that Mercedes outside?" "Yes, that's my car," Camilla replied calmly, though her heart was beginning to race. "Is there a problem with my vehicle?" Mitchell exchanged a glance with his partner. Where did you get the money for a car like that? The question hung in the air like poison. Camilla felt her jaw tighten. She knew exactly what he was implying, and it infuriated her. But she also knew that showing anger could make things worse. I own a technology company, she said, keeping her voice steady. Harrison Security Systems. Perhaps you've heard of it. Mitchell scoffed. Right, and I'm supposed to believe you bought that car with honest money? Other customers in the coffee shop were starting to notice the confrontation. The barista behind the counter looked worried, unsure whether to intervene or call someone for help. Officer, I've done nothing wrong, Camilla said. Her voice still calm, but with an edge of frustration creeping in. I'm sitting here having coffee before a business meeting. My car is legally registered and parked properly. I don't understand what the issue is. The issue, Mitchell said, leaning down closer to her face, is that I think you stole that car. I think you're using fake documents. And I think you need to come with us to the station until we sort this out. Camilla couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was profiling at its worst. And it was happening to her in broad daylight in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Los Angeles. She had worked her entire life to build her success, and now she was being treated like a criminal for simply existing in her own space. I'm not going anywhere with you, Camilla said firmly. I have rights? You have no probable cause to detain me. Mitchell's face reddened with anger. He didn't like being challenged, especially not by someone he had already decided was beneath him. You're refusing to cooperate with a police officer. That's obstruction. I've cooperated, Camilla countered. I showed you my identification. I answered your questions. But I will not be unlawfully detained. Cole shifted uncomfortably behind Mitchell. Even he was starting to realize this situation was getting out of hand. The woman had done nothing wrong, and they had no legal reason to take her anywhere. But Mitchell was his superior, and he didn't want to contradict him in public. Mitchell reached for Camilla's arm. Stand up. You're coming with us. Camilla pulled her arm away. Don't touch me. I know my rights. The situation escalated quickly. Mitchell grabbed her wrist more forcefully, attempting to pull her from her chair. Camilla resisted, not violently but firmly, asserting her right not to be manhandled without cause. Other customers gasped, and some pulled out their phones, beginning to record the incident. She's resisting arrest, Mitchell shouted as if trying to justify his actions to the growing audience. Cole finally stepped forward. Mitchell, maybe we should grab her other arm. Mitchell commanded. Reluctantly, Cole moved to restrain Camilla's other arm. She found herself being pulled from her chair, her tablet clattering to the floor, her coffee spilling across the table. The humiliation was overwhelming. She had built an empire, employed hundreds of people, donated millions to charity, and now she was being treated like a common criminal in a coffee shop. This is illegal, Camilla shouted, her voice carrying through the small shop. You have no cause to arrest me. Someone call my lawyer? Mitchell forced her arms behind her back, reaching for his handcuffs. The metal was cold against her wrists as he secured them tightly. Too tightly. Camilla winced in pain but refused to give him the satisfaction of hearing her complain. The barista had called 911, reporting the incident and asking for a supervisor to come to the scene. Several customers were recording everything on their phones, their faces showing shock and anger at what they were witnessing. As Mitchell began to push Camilla toward the door, she held her head high. She refused to be broken by this injustice. She had survived poverty, discrimination, and countless obstacles to reach her success. She would survive this too, but just as they reached the door of the coffee shop, it swung open from the outside. A large figure filled the doorway, blocking their path. Mitchell looked up, annoyed at the interruption, and found himself face to face with someone he immediately recognized. Mike Tyson stood in the doorway, his imposing presence making the already tense situation suddenly feel electric. The former heavyweight champion of the world looked from Camilla in handcuffs to the two officers, his expression darkening as he quickly assessed what was happening. Tyson had been driving through the neighborhood when he noticed the commotion through the coffee shop window. Something about the scene bothered him, so he decided to stop and see what was going on. Now, seeing a black woman in an expensive suit being led out in handcuffs by two white officers, his instincts told him something was very wrong. "What's going on here?" Tyson asked, his famous voice instantly recognizable to everyone in the shop. Mitchell tried to maintain his authority despite being intimidated by the boxing legend standing before him. "Police business. Step aside." Tyson didn't move. Instead, he looked directly at Camilla. "Ma'am, what did you do?" "Nothing," Camilla said, her voice strong despite her circumstances. "I was having coffee. They accused me of stealing my own car." Tyson's jaw clenched. He had heard stories like this too many times. He had lived through discrimination himself, despite his fame and fortune. The color of their skin still made them targets in the eyes of some people, no matter what they achieved. "You got proof she did something wrong?" Tyson asked Mitchell, stepping fully into the shop and letting the door close behind him. "Like I said, this is police business," Mitchell repeated. Trying to push past Tyson with Camilla in tow, Tyson moved to block their path again. "I asked you a question. What crime did she commit?" The tension in the coffee shop was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was frozen, watching this confrontation unfold between a police officer and one of the most famous athletes in the world.